welcome to this month's virtual event brought to you by the FYI by Find Your Influence. My name is Jocelyn Goodroad. I'm the founding member, EVP, and Head of Partnerships for Find Your Influence. I'm pleased to initiate today's discussion with three thought leaders in the influencer marketing space. This time taking a turn at hitting on the revenue side of influencer marketing, find your ROI or return on investment in influencer marketing. Topics will include today, but not limited to, defining goals and objectives, what benchmarking looks like, and the importance of understanding costs and investment. Without further ado, we're excited to introduce you to the panel. First, we have Amanda Sullivan. Amanda works in developing strategic, innovative vision for an innovative creative network across a portfolio of 20 legacy brands. She's an accomplished strategic partnership executive with a proven track record in business and brand development since 2009. She's specializing in brand integration, influencer marketing campaigns, and talent partnerships with companies like Gucci, Microsoft, Epic Games, and Samsung. Amanda holds an MBA in marketing and a master's in studies in entertainment law from the University of Southern California, and an accounting degree as well. She sits on the board of StackUp, as well as actively mentors and advocates for LGBTQIA+ and BIPOC individuals in gaming and esports communities. Welcome, Amanda. If you can give us a little wave and hello.
Hello.
Perfect. We also have Ryan Charchian. Ryan has over 10 years experience in social and influencer marketing. Ryan is a data-driven and creative professional who specializes in new media and vertical content. Ryan has worked on national and international ad campaigns, product launches, and is a member on the social team for the then Vice President Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign. On the corporate side, Ryan has worked with companies like Tumblr, L'Oreal, and Revlon. Ryan began his career as an influencer while still in high school, and he holds a bachelor's degree in advertising and marketing communications from the Fashion Institute of Technology. After 11 years in New York City, he's recently departed to travel and work as a digital nomad. Welcome, Ryan, if you can give a little hello.
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. And then our last panelist is Natasha Ibrahim. Growing up as a third culture kid fueled her nomadic spirit and inspired her to build a life of travel and remote work. She's a seasoned traveler and culture connoisseur with a foundation in international relations and business. Natasha has honed her skills as a digital nomad and content creator, working for Fortune 500 companies, freelancing, or running her own successful ventures. Today, she works on both sides of the creator economy at LTK and as a content creator. Her mission is to empower others to pursue a balanced and mindful life infused with enriching experiences of adventure. Welcome, Natasha. If you can give a little hello.
Hey, everybody. So happy to be here.
Awesome. We are happy to have you. And finally, our event moderator, Chelsea Goodson. Not only is Chelsea head of our influencer economy here at Find Your Influence, but Chelsea is a creator and also a small business owner. Now that we've met the panelists, I'll pass the virtual microphone to you, Chelsea. You're muted. There's Chelsea.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate Jocelyn. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. Amanda, Natasha, Ryan, I'm really, really looking forward to digging into this topic of ROI within influencer marketing. And I'm sure our audiences as well. But before we begin, I have a couple of housekeeping items that I wanted to share with our audience. All attendee cameras are off and microphones are muted, so no need to worry there. And then we also have our Q&A chat, which will be open throughout the duration of the webinar. We encourage you to submit questions, and then at the end, we're going to address as many of them as we can. So without further ado, let's dive in. When discussing finding return on your investment or ROI in influencer marketing, it's really important to delve into various aspects of the strategy and its outcomes. So we have a wide variety of questions that we're going to go through today that explore just that. Amanda, I'm going to start with you today. What KPIs do you consider the most essential when measuring the success of any influencer marketing campaign?
Such a great question. And I think the answer for that, at least from my experience, depends on the overall goals that you set. So if you have an awareness campaign, typically I'll look at impressions or video views, for example, versus if this is a more sales focus where you need specific conversions, I will, of course, look at link clicks and then I'll look at the resulting sales and kind of analyze the data based on that. How many people click the link versus purchase? That will kind of help inform me for the next campaign.
Very cool. That's wonderful. I appreciate you sharing that. Now to kind of spin it to a different direction, Natasha, I'd love to hear from a creator's perspective. How do you define success within influencer marketing campaigns? And what type of metrics do you prioritize when you're assessing the impact of your collaborations?
Yeah, I think it's really important to gauge the alignment of a campaign with your own brand and to see what the awareness is, and then also the clicks and how many people actually are going to make the purchase in the future or have in the moment. A lot of times with campaigns, I think it's less about that direct click and purchase right away and more about brand awareness and building that relationship. So I really think it's important to do long-term partnerships and become more of an ambassador for brands rather than those one-off collaborations that can kind of be fleeting and not have as much of an impact. So yeah, I think looking long-term and seeing the overall scope of it is really important.
Yeah, I love that. I think those are all great points to make. And I know from the brand side and then also from the creator's perspective, long-term partnerships are always ideal because like you said, it's not only kind of in the moment, those clicks, but it's more so brand awareness. Love your answer and appreciate it so much. Ryan, I'm going to send it over to you. How do you determine the quantifying the impact of influencer marketing? So on brand awareness, engagement, and conversions.
Yeah, I think we're all going to keep saying this, but all great questions so far. And I think Amanda also kind of started off by noting with your KPIs, you have to determine what you want to do, and going after each of those things, brand awareness, engagement, and conversions are different things, and you need different creators to do those things. Some people might be able to do them all, but not everyone, and that's totally fine. But even with brand awareness, just looking and setting up your goals and how you want to measure that with the response that you get from the community that you already have. Are you trying to get outside of your echo chamber and acquire new customers? I think you just, again, need to set yourself straight with what you want to do and what you want to achieve. Going down with engagements and conversions, sometimes there's correlations that if a post does really well, you'll bring them down the funnel and convert. If that is what you want your creator to do, you need to just make sure they're set up with the right tracking tools. I have seen a lot of campaigns, you go live, you have the link, and then there's not the correct UTM. And then you have no idea where all of this conversions are coming from. So you don't know, did your paid component do this? Did the creator organically do it? Then you don't know what your cost per post and all of that is. So you just need to make sure all of that is very buttoned up.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make. The UTM piece, I believe, is huge. And like you said, it really is able to give you a very full picture of how things are moving down the funnel. So appreciate you sharing that. That's great. Ryan and Amanda, I'll look to both of you. I'll stay with you, Ryan, if you don't mind. How about, given the multi-channel nature of marketing, how do you attribute specific results directly to your influencer marketing efforts?
Yeah, going into each campaign, most marketers have different toolings that you'll do. So if you want to do the brand awareness, you need a really great social listening tool. If you are tracking EMV, what is your platform that's doing that? Each brand, again, you just need to determine what you really want to track and how are you defining success for that and why. Because again, EMV does not necessarily correlate that you're actually making sales. You just have a lot of people talking about your product. So that's the most important thing, is just have those right tools set up.
Wonderful. Amanda, I'm going to look to you next. What strategies or tools do you use to accurately attribute conversions on the influencer marketing campaigns that you're running?
Yeah, such a great question. I think Ryan actually touched on everything to a T, so I have nothing to add.
No problem there. I think Ryan also very much hit the nail on the head in terms of, tools are so important in any influencer marketing campaign. And like Ryan mentioned, it really is able to give you that full picture in terms of where everything is coming from, whether that's brand awareness, whether that's conversions, whatever it may be. Okay, Natasha, I'm going to jump back to you. Could you please share some insights on how you maintain and engage with your audience, and then how this engagement contributes to the success of your influencer campaigns? And obviously you post content that is not sponsored, and then also sprinkled in there, you have that sponsored content. So would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I really think engagement with your audience is a dance between what you love, what they need, and what you need to give them. I create very consistently, and I always share nuggets of my life that are more personal, because at the end of the day, it's a person on the other side of their phone or screen, and you're a person as well, and people are really craving that connection. So making sure I ask my audience what's resonating with them, what they love to get from me, how I can help them, and how I can serve them. That is my main goal with my content at the end of the day, is to make their lives better, whether it's to tell them something that will uplift their mindset, or a tool that I'm using, or something that I've found out. And I think being in that mindset as a content creator and creating from that space of serving your audience is always going to land the best, because I think it can be very isolating being a content creator, and you're so much on your own and thinking about yourself. But at the end of the day, what is the reason for creating content? It's to help others, and leaning into that makes your content more relatable, and it also really opens up a safe space for your audience to tell you what they need from you. And then in turn, that helps attract aligned brands, and being very clear on your values, your pillars, and what impact you want to make is so crucial, because it's a long game. It's not something that you want to go viral once, grow your following, and then you fall off, or you don't know what to create next. It's like, what kind of life do you want to create for yourself, and how does your audience play into that?
That was beautifully said. I so appreciate your perspective there. I love what you said about creating a safe space. I think we all know the online world is full of different pockets, and to know that you are creating a place for your audience to come and connect with you and have that relatability is immensely amazing, and I'm sure they appreciate that. But I also love the perspective in terms of how, you're presenting the content that you create, and how that aligns best with the brands that you're attracting. I think that's a great perspective to have. I know that many influencers could have their bucket list brands that they want to work with, and to hear that you say have those, but also are looking to the ones that best align with the ones, the values that you have on your own is really amazing.
Can I add a little nugget in?
Yes, please do.
If anyone is on their content creator journey, do it slow and steady, rather than trying to go after those brands at the beginning and taking whatever deal you can, because building a strong brand is so much more, there's so much more worth to it in the long term, and building that trust with your audience is so much better than taking those one-off brand deals, or just kind of trying to take a shortcut.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is wonderful. And I'm sure there are many people on today that will appreciate that. They always say slow and steady wins the race. So it sounds like that is definitely your perspective as well in terms of your influencer work. Wonderful. All right. Well, we know part of the success formula for any influencer marketing campaign is the right partnership, the right influencer, and their audience. Ryan, I'm going to send it over to you. What criteria do you use when selecting influencers to collaborate with? And how does that criteria really tie into your ROI expectations?
Yeah, this is always a great question. And I also find, I want to just preface with this, is that with most organizations, working with creators of any type can be expensive, just depends on what you're trying to achieve. So there's a lot of internal education you have to do. So one thing I really like to do, just to simplify it for C-suite or leadership or whomever, is I look at the marketing pyramid, which is inverted, with awareness at the top, conversion at the bottom. And I like to look at the influencer marketing pyramid, if you will. There's all different types out there, but then put that next to it, and they're almost inverted. It's not perfect. There's exceptions to the rule and rule to the exception, but that's kind of how I just like to, as I'm explaining things to leadership of like what you want to achieve, that is like kind of an easy visual for them to see, and like why things might cost what they do. But then once you have that set up and you're talking to them and like, yes, there's a reason why I want to work with, let's say, you're doing a go-to-market, and you really want to achieve this, I will then go into a tool like a tracker, a tagger, Creator IQ, and just really look at their engagement, how authentic their audience actually is, and really going to their page and getting to know them. And are their followers going to care about this? I think that's so important. Is their community actually there? Are they just, a lot of post-COVID world we live in, a lot of creators have lost some of their engagement as well, which is no fault to them. But really just getting to know them. And something I really like to do, and I know Amanda does as well, is just have a conversation with them, because instantly I trust my gut a lot too. So that's a huge criteria factor for me. And then determining that ROI from them, after we have to level set after we have that conversation and really be like, what is achievable, what I'm going to do, work with you for. And then I think the most powerful thing a creator could do to me is like, these aren't realistic things. I don't want to just take this paycheck. Let's find a happy in between and then make it more successful.
That's wonderful to hear. I feel like often, and I can speak from a creator's perspective, sometimes when you have a brand that comes to you and they're sharing, what their KPIs are, it can be a bit daunting. And like you said, I think it takes a lot of guts to say, you know what, I don't think that these are attainable for me. And I think many influencers would be too afraid to say that. But to hear from your perspective of, this is what I would really value if an influencer said to me, is huge. And I'm sure any individual listening today from the influencer side will appreciate that greatly and take that with them as they move on. You also mentioned kind of like Natasha said, a bit of a dance here. It's not only the conversion rate or KPIs, the things that you're really trying to, gain, let's say monetarily wise from any campaign, but also it's a gut check. It's how do you mesh with this person? How do they sit with yourself and your teammates? Because at the end of the day, you're working together, you're collaborating. And if it's, a bit of a push and pull to create any content, then it's not going to really necessarily sit well. It's not to say that doesn't happen occasionally and everything works out great, but I think there's such value in that personal connection as well with any brand and influencer that they're working with. I always recommend that to our own influencers, to have that type of relationship, and same with our influencer managers who are on our team, to really ensure that they're making that type of connection, because at the end of the day, we're all human and we want to feel valued and heard, and same, we're working toward this goal together. And I just love that that's your perspective there. Ryan, I kind of have a part 2 for you. So if you don't mind, how do you assess the reach and engagement potential of any influencer's audience, before initiating any partnership?
Yeah, I also, in my previous roles, I've always, looked at anything you do with influencers and talent as just an expansion of your community management as well. So before I even worked with most creators, they've been on, again, when I've worked in like beauty or something like that, they've been on our gifting list. So I'm looking also just to see, how are people reacting to that post, or are they commenting on that YouTube video, and just really seeing the love already built in from their community, and what they're also able to do for other brands. I think that's a really powerful thing. I kind of used to use this little hack. I don't know if anyone here, Tribe Dynamics, a tool that monitors your like EMV and such. You can also see top creators for your competitors. And it was just always really interesting to look and see who are their top creators. Are they only talking about that brand in a paid capacity or in an organic capacity? So then just taking all of that information and looking at their follower count at the current time and their current engagement, and then having that conversation, and will we actually achieve this? As we know, the algorithm sometimes does not love that hashtag ad. So a big thing too, talking to people and explaining that and being like, if the bigger the creator is, if I'm not repurposing that content for UGC and I'm getting other uses out of it, which would be different KPIs, I always try to find something, even $100, $200 for like any type of paid push, because that helps it go even further than what it is, just to get out of that little phase of using that hashtag ad.
Yeah, you bring up a great point in terms of how is this influencer organically sharing about the brand or the product that you're wanting to promote further. I know that, gifting and sharing a bit more is a very well-known process within the influencer world, but I think sometimes it often gets left behind. You get kind of caught up in, this is my organic content and then this is my paid content. I'm only going to talk about this brand in a paid capacity. But I think that there is so much value in sharing things that you truly love, because like Natasha mentioned, that's how you kind of you relate to your audience. This is what I'm wearing today, or this is the new coffee that I tried, or whatever it may be. Whatever products really fulfill your day is what your audience wants to see. And then, like you mentioned, it's very easy for a brand to see that and be able to make that connection and turn that into more of a paid conversation. And then also, I think there's such a benefit if they've already been talking about the product, it's likely that their audience is going to really resonate further when they're talking about it in a hashtag ad way.
Totally. And I had one other nugget just to add on. I've been at some roles where it's like I am social media creator, content creator, community manager, influencer manager, all just bundled under. I think we can all resonate with that. With the tooling we've had would only allow, like social listening, would only allow me to see a creator if they tagged me or used a certain hashtag. So I think that's so important for creators today. I know you might have a manager and that's the conversation you have to have with them if like you want to give any brands a freebie by mentioning them. But in this day and age, when there's just so many creators, a lot of brand people, the teams are not large from my understanding and experience. So you might have to do that tag, but also in the comments, because as you get smarter and learn as hopefully as a creator as well, you understand API access, these brands, these tools can't pull it in if it's like the native tagging tool. You can do both, but depending on the size of teams and stuff, a lot of the times you have like 2 or 3 people tops, if not just one person trying to look at all of this inbound messaging. So you kind of have to play the game and organically tag the brand to get on their radar.
Yeah, that's a great nugget. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's really beneficial to know. And again, there's so many ways that you can tag a brand, whether it's in the caption, whether it's in a photo, whether it's in a story. There's lots of different methods, but knowing that you should try to really do the full gamut of them in order to get on someone's radar is really helpful to hear. Okay, now we're going to shift back over to the creator's perspective. So Natasha, I'm coming for you. How do you ensure your brand collaborations align with your personal brand and values? I know we talked about that a little bit before, but kind of curious to hear about how you, feel that, how do you do this and how do you feel that this authentically, impacts the overall success of the campaigns? And that really just ties back to the conversation that we just had with Ryan as well.
Yeah, I think something that I've learned over time is really creating organic content around brands that I genuinely love. And then like content that they would want to share on their platforms, and then telling them, hey, I'm creating this content on your product because I genuinely love it. And this is how it's performing, and building the relationship from there. I think it's so important for creators to get clear on their why. Read Start With Why by Simon Sinek. If you haven't already, get clear on what your purpose is, where you want to be, make your goals for the next year. What are your dream brands and why are they your dream brands? And what kind of content are they already posting, or what do they need help doing? Do they need more sales to their physical product? Do they need more signups, etc.? How can you as a creator help them reach their goals? And I think some of the brands that I work with, I do like monthly content creation partnerships or ambassadorships. I make one piece of paid content for them a month, but I'm sharing probably 5 to 10 pieces of content where I'm dripping them out because I genuinely love them. I genuinely use them. I'm vlogging and they're just naturally in my hand or when I travel, etc. And I think it benefits everyone in the end. It benefits your followers because it's genuinely a product that works and is good, and that's going to help them. The brand also benefits in that way, and it creates that trust with your audience. Because yeah, I think at the end of the day, knowing your place in your content, your niche, and I mean, there's so much talk on like niching down or staying wide, and I have different opinions about both of those, but at the same time, it is important to really know where you stand and be true to that and find brands that align with it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. And I'm gonna have to look up that book as well. Sounds like it's going to be a good read. So you mentioned a little bit about, talking with the brands a bit more in terms of their KPI, what they're looking for in terms of, conversions, brand awareness, whatever it may be. Amanda, I'm going to send this back to you with that in mind. Just to hear about, if you could share a couple examples of influencer marketing campaigns that directly led to increased sales, and then how did you measure this impact as well?
Yeah, so I've never actually worked on any sales-focused campaigns personally, but I imagine this is tracked through trackable links, utilizing specific codes at checkout, for example. I believe that's the most straightforward way to probably track that conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree there. In my experience, those are definitely the tools that we've utilized in the past as well. And it sounds like that's pretty universal. Okay, so we'll shift a little bit to budget, and Ryan, I'm going to come to you. So knowing budgeting is key. Ryan, how do you determine the budget for your influencer marketing efforts?
Yeah, this is $1 million question in more ways than one. So, I mean, it's really having that conversation with whoever is owning your budget. If it's not you, like who you're requesting, again, coming down to that education, what do you want to achieve? I think, I hate being so dorky to say this, but you have to spend money to make money. There's so much happening out there in this day and age. You can't just think like, oh, we're going to do this like fun one-off campaign. It's going to go viral. You can't. That's like everyone's always like, we want to go viral. We want to go viral. Like that, you just cannot determine that anymore. So really looking at what are your product launches? If you're, beauty or a tangible product, what's your roadmap? If you're even like an app, like what are the things you actually want to support? Because not everything needs support. Actually, I think a lot of people think you have to announce it or you don't, because no, you just need to get people into the fold. Your community will find the tools, no worries there. So that is a very vague answer, but it really comes down to like, what do you need to support? And then backing into it, how important is this launch? Is this like, you have a whole new formula for this beauty product, it's going to disrupt the industry, then obviously that needs more. And you're going to want to work with more people out there that might be a little bit more expensive. I've been very fortunate to be in a lot of conversations with creators that, deservingly like have been like, oh, it's 250,000. All the way down to like, oh, I'll do a bunch for like 500 in. And so you just have to know what part of the go-to-market strategy is each creator going to achieve.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I had a separate question, but I feel like you really hit on all the points. I was just curious to hear what strategies you use to optimize your budget, but it sounds like you have many different ways kind of determining, based off of the product, with the launches, even who the influencer is as well. Yeah,
but then one thing also is like, again, I'm going to come back to it. TikTok now, with their the creator marketplace and other things, you can just be all in the app to like boost the post, things like that. Even $50 on TikTok can go be tens of thousands of extras of views, just depending on what you're competing with that day. And so I think the number one thing I have to drive home is, as much as you have a creator, you need to have that paid amplification in this day and age to really get past all the other white noise that's happening out there.
Yeah, that's great to hear. In my experience, I mean, many brands, I think nowadays are realizing the need for paid amplification, but I think that there's still many out there who are kind of on the fence about it. So just to hear from your perspective that it's very useful, especially, TikTok, for example, it can really, really help, whatever you're trying to push forward that day. I think that's a great perspective. Wonderful. Well, I know that Amanda is going to be heading out pretty soon. So I had a couple other questions that I'll try to get through and get to quickly. But Amanda, I wanted to come to you and ask, in cases where an influencer campaign has had a negative impact, how do you more so handle damage control? And what lessons have you learned from this?
Ooh, that's always a fun one. I feel like it can be tough. Luckily, I have yet to run into like a very bad case of this. I think we've all seen those like nightmare disasters where a brand has a partnership and everyone gets torn apart on the internet. Luckily, I have not been part of that, but I think it's really just about making sure ahead of time that your messaging is correct. You're not asking anyone to lie or make false claims. I think if you go with influencers that really align with your brand and you trust and you really done your due diligence into looking into their content, typically something bad is not going to happen, but you can't please everyone. I think that's quite literally impossible. So sometimes really just again making sure you get ahead of it to avoid stuff. But I've learned, and this maybe could be controversial, sometimes not saying something if it's very minor. Like I try not to get too caught up in the comments when I've deployed campaigns before, because people just like to have fun in there. And you know what? Not everything needs an answer. But I imagine in some really crazy conversations, we've all seen CEOs take to TikTok to make announcements and statements. And so, in those extreme cases, there are like risk assessments done. PR companies come in to help mitigate this, and decisions are made based on that.
Yeah. That all sounds like, great ways and methods in terms of kind of handling damage control, if you will. Outside of what you've already shared, are there any other strategies that maybe you try to employ whenever you're starting a campaign? Are there certain perspectives that you put into place just knowing that this could potentially happen when the campaign launches?
Yeah, I think having a very buttoned up campaign brief will help you avoid. I love a do's and don'ts section. I like talking about depending on the brand and whether you need it to be like PG or you can be a little edgier, like, hey, there will be no cursing. There will be no, speaking like this or that. Obviously, contracts can have negative ramifications, but it's always best, I think, to avoid things before they get to that point and kind of nip them in the bud. So I think having a very straightforward direct campaign brief can kind of just like help guide the influencers that you're working with on maybe things to avoid, so that even if it's not done on purpose by them, they don't misspeak and cause an accidental uprising or anything like that. So just lots of planning ahead of time.
Yeah, you really spoke to, I had one more question slated for you, and you really, I feel like, already walked through it, but I'll share in case that there's something additional that you wanted to share. So knowing that collaboration and communication is really key, and the brief being a really solid piece of that. How do you foster effective communication between the brand and the influencer to make sure that you guys have alignment? I know you mentioned the brief, but is there anything else that you utilize to make sure that that alignment is staying intact, whether it's at the beginning, as the follow through, and then all the way to the end as you're wrapping up?
Definitely. Well, Ryan and I here work very, very closely together on this. And I would say that, between the two of us and then any influencers we work with, we'll have text threads with them where they can text us, call us at any time. We also, of course, have email. I'm very available on like Discord, WhatsApp. You can hit me up on Instagram. So having like a very clear and maybe less like buttoned up professional way of communicating. But when you're working with influencers who exist on TikTok and exist on Instagram, we make ourselves very available to communicate in any way that works best for them. So while a little unorthodox, maybe I wouldn't tell my CEO, like, yeah, I'm on Instagram talking to them. But if that's how the influencer wants to conduct business, then that's kind of how we really streamline that. But really keeping a lot more of the professional communication, official, let's say, campaign details to email, I think makes it so that the folks that we do work with feel really comfortable coming to us with questions, and we're not this like scary corporate wall, but we're just human beings trying to all make the same thing come to life.
Yes. I love hearing that. I can attest to that. And appreciate that perspective. Sounds like the brief and also that type of communication. I'm the same as you. I know that my type of communication, I think, is a little bit more lax as well. But like you said, I think that shows whomever you're working with that you're a real human being, that you're also working toward this goal with them and really want to make sure that they feel seen, and that also you're able to have this type of collaboration. You're not just a big scary wall that they can't come to, or vice versa as well. Awesome. Natasha, I thought I'd throw it back to you. So I know we talked about a little already, how you maintain your trust with your audience. You talked about kind of the relatability piece, talking about products often that you use every day, whether that's in a paid or unpaid capacity. Just knowing that the landscape that we're in is really, truly ever evolving and changes very quickly. How do you stay informed in terms of these industry changes? And then how do you kind of adapt your strategy to really not only connect with your audience and kind of continue that style of communication that you've already had thus far, but also to maximize the ROI for the brands that you work with? Because let's say you sign on for a campaign and, a week later, there is a huge disrupt in the industry and something greatly changes. How do you adjust to that while also maintaining and being yourself with your audience?
I think being transparent is very important. Also staying on top of your industry. Like, my niche is kind of digital nomading, travel. I connect with other creators in my niche. And I'm always like, I have a big friend group of creators, and like, we're very close and we're constantly sharing tips with each other and just keeping each other up to date. And I think that's very important in this industry, because it's like a few videos can come out, or someone can make a video, and it does cause disruption. And just being aware of that, and then also being communicative with the brands that you work with. I have really good relationships with these brands that I've built over some of them years, and making sure I'm going the extra mile, because I want to see them win as much as I want to see myself win. So it's like, we're all feeding off of each other, and we're all kind of supporting each other in that way. And they also communicate with me if there's something that happened, or they let me know about current events, because of course there's so much going on in the world, and it's hard to keep up with everything. But I think also staying true to your values and being very just being very sensitive to how what people might be going through with current events too. And pulling back when you need to. Like, working at LTK, I work with a lot of creators, and of course there's been a lot going on in the world, and some of them have told me, hey, I don't feel comfortable posting, or and just being very mindful of their emotions and what they might be going through. And just like, because of course, influencing, it's like you're creating this perfect world when in reality the world is not perfect. So we need to find that balance. I think it's really important.
Yeah, that's great perspective. You really hit the nail on the head there. I think there is a lot going on in the world, and staying tuned in is very important. I know here at FYI, we certainly try and do the same in ensuring that any of the content that we have going live is in a place of where it's appropriate, and we're not kind of putting something out there that might feel off-putting, especially with all that's going on in the world. And I love to hear that you do the same as well.
Absolutely. I love how you guys handle everything too. It's
Thank you. I appreciate
very
it.
aligned with me, which is of course why we've had such a great relationship.
Yes, I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Since I have you, I've got one more question for you. So from your perspective, how does building these long-term relationships with the brands that you work with contribute to the overall success of the campaign? So, ROI, but also their overall influencer marketing efforts.
Yeah, I think it's a psychological phenomenon that if you see something more often, the more likely you are to purchase it, but also to trust it. And these are products I'm not one of those people that I'm going to go try a million different things and switch up I mean, yes, I travel a lot and I move a lot, but I do know what I go back to, and sharing that with your audience, just being transparent. I mean, at the end of the day, they're coming to you to learn, or they're engaging with you to like know what you like and what works for you. So don't be afraid to be a little bit more vocal about it. Sometimes I feel a little awkward saying like, I love this thing, or, it doesn't feel that normal. But then I realize when I watch other influencers that I love, I want to know what they're eating. I want to know what makeup they're using, what products they're using. So think about it from that perspective. And yeah, just being very, like, if you can organically plug something, do it. Like, for example, in my YouTube videos, when I'm traveling, if I'm doing something dangerous, I'm like, hey, by the way, I use Safety Wing travel insurance, so I can do these things and feel safe doing them, like I'm covered, and I don't need to plug them. And like, I could totally do that thing without mentioning them, but I'm like, hey, this is a perfect opportunity because I do use them and this is why I use them. So just finding those little pockets of where you can mention or just like bring something up that you already have that relationship with.
Yeah, I love that perspective again. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. Everyone has such great perspectives on all of these different bits and pieces. And I really love hearing that you kind of put yourself in your audience shoes. That's the way you really know that I would say you're doing the right thing, because sometimes it can feel a bit weird sharing, this is what I'm eating, or this is what type of Waterloo flavor I'm drinking today. Something is so specific, but I will tell you, there are many people out there who want to know. People are interested in other people. And while I would say social media in general can be kind of, sometimes it can feel like a very siloed space. Let's say you're a stay-at-home mom and, you've just got your kids around you. It can feel like you don't have many people around. So sometimes one way or another, social media can feel like, oh, there's no one I can really connect with, or there's so many people that I can connect with each day, and I can see what they're doing and what they're loving. And it really creates opportunity for community, especially for those who feel that they're in a place where they don't have a lot of that at the moment or any given time.
Absolutely, I agree.
Wonderful. Okay, Ryan, we're going to wrap it up with you, and then we'll move on to the Q&A. So Ryan, I'd love if you could please share an example of a successful influencer collaboration that resulted in a mutually beneficial relationship and positive ROI.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about a campaign that had multiple creators. Because this one was really exciting, really fun, and it's going to kind of bring it back to this whole conversation. So back when I worked in beauty, I worked at L'Oreal on a brand, and if people know, Ulta does something twice a year. Their 21 Days of Beauty. It's a really exciting time. They don't select every brand to be a part of it, but then that is a very important sales opportunity for the brands you're at. So knowing that this is a really important time for us, because you also as a brand are paying to be a part of it, and funding that discount. A lot of people don't realize all the mechanics that go into it. So we need things to sell out. So you need to identify the core product. And in this case, it was our setting powders for the brand I was on. So knowing our date was coming up, we aligned for mailers to go out. So it arrived to everyone on our gifting list within 24-ish hours, so 48 at max, because we wanted people to be able to say, oh, it's tomorrow. Their 21 Days of Beauty is tomorrow. You should go on Ulta, go on the app, etc. Because if you sent it a week in advance, people would forget. There was so much buzz happening in the beauty sphere at that time. But something else we like to do is send multiple of the same product. So it's kind of like one for you, one for a friend, one to donate, to like also keep yourself, whatever. So to encourage them to just keep the product going. They could also do a giveaway too on their channel. So that was really fun. That also just made people really excited. They were also tagging Ulta. They sometimes would also reshare, because some of these influencers were part of their brand guidelines, so they would want to reshare. So we're kind of giving them a little extra boost, if you will. But then bringing it back to also kind of like how do I quantify that? When we got our data later, the next quarter or whatever it was, excuse me, I don't remember, but MPD beauty data is kind of what tracks all the key categories. And we were able to move our setting powder from number 9 to number 7. I'm not saying it's only me, there's a whole army of people behind, every brand, but it's really exciting as a team when like your paid media, your influencer, your social, everything's firing all at the same time. And you're able to move up in such a competitive category as a setting powder category. And that was the most exciting because then this brand also hadn't really activated their really, really powerful, community that they had built over time, because there was not a social media person really dedicated for this brand at the time, because it was a smaller brand under the L'Oreal portfolio. So that was great. And we saw it. And then that just told you, if you kept activating people, we needed to get buzz regenerated. Our products were there. They were on Ulta gondolas, but you just didn't know it. There was no sales support because the brand was not like trendy, if you will. So this really helped foster those relationships. And then those people that really kind of like scratched our back, then maybe we'd want to move to a paid post after the gifting phase. So that was great.
I love to hear that. I'm a big fan of that sale, and I love to hear the ins and outs that go behind it. But like you said, I think there's so much that goes into sharing something like this. It's timing, it's the products, the interests. I love that you have the opportunity to gift multiple of one items, because I always say this, you are not only influencing your audience, but you're influencing your friends, your family. So they also want to have the opportunity to try out these products as well. And then donating, I know, is very important also. So I love that that's part of the aspect. Wonderful. Well, I will go ahead and wrap us up for this part of the conversation. I know that Amanda had to step out, but I want to thank truly all three of you for sharing your insights and knowledge with us. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I can see there are many questions within the Q&A that our audience members are excited to hear from you guys about. If anyone has any additional questions that they would like to ask either Natasha or Ryan, go ahead and enter it into the Q&A chat. I've got it pulled up now, and we'll spend a little time going through them. I was just peeking at them as well, just to see, and there's some really interesting and exciting ones in there. But there was one in particular, Ryan, that if I could, I would love to stick with you for a second and see if you have a perspective on this. So we've talked a lot, obviously, all about ROI and converting, particularly in sales. So either share maybe if there's been an instance, or what you would do in the case if an influencer does not convert close to what your goals were, sales wise, what that might look like for the relationship, or what you might do if there's a practice, maybe let's say halfway through the campaign, if you might support that individual further, whatever that may look like.
Yeah, this is a great question, because conversion is what, keeps the lights on. So I think it's having that honest conversation with them, and really it has to become a trust. Like, do you have numbers from before that shows that you've been able to send people to links before? Then there's actually an ability to show us that they entered a code, they did convert at the end of the day. I think a lot of contracts should be kind of formulated so that you can at any point reevaluate. You don't want to always exit, and that can make people scared, and then they'll want more money up front and such. But after one post, after one opportunity, then we come back to the table and look. And if it's not working, it's like, okay, then let's do an addendum to the contract that instead of like these being conversion posts, we actually want 2 just TikToks for the same fee, instead of like maybe an entire shoot they were doing for Instagram or full length YouTube video. Conversion is extremely tough and hard. I think, a really powerful tool that I've used for things in the past is the TikTok creator marketplace that Natasha also kind of spoke to, that seeing product or so many times, there is a psychological callback to it. I forgot there is a number, but so you want to work with a lot of creators to compensate them as well. So again, also going up to those, your KPIs and goals, like what do you want to achieve? Sorry, this was a little scattered brained of an answer, but ultimately it comes back to reviewing and like really trusting the creator and the management. This is not traditional, like, ad sales where if you don't hit like oh, Nielsen promised me, you know, I would get 1 million views on this 30-second spot. You know, you would get a make good. Make goods don't really exist as much in creator marketing, and for a reason. And that's when I also want to say, like, you need to have a paid component and activate that piece of content against their audience, other audience profile types that you've identified. And then again, come back to the table once you've done all the different things you could to reevaluate the partnership.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. It sounds like you have some great perspective on how you handle that conversation. I know that that can be tricky. And again,
Yeah,
like you said,
delicate.
yes, we're not kind of working with, you know, Nielsen or any other
Yeah.
kind of automated process. We're working with real people. So how do we have these conversations in a very fair way? And I think you giving the opportunity to the influencer is wonderful about how we can kind of collaborate and maybe finesse things along the way in order to really reach the goals that you've set, and also have the influencer kind of have that opportunity to adjust in what they're doing to align better with you, that hopefully will continue to maintain a longer term partnership. Awesome. Natasha, I've got a question for you. There's a couple here. My goodness, I just had the one and it kind of zoomed away, but I know that you talked a little bit more about how you like to organically share the brands that you're using, products that you're using, whatever it may be. This person in specific said, what is the best way to get a brand's attention as a creator? So I'm not sure if there was anything more that you had to share there, but because you talked about that topic so much, I wanted to send that one over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking at the content of the creators that they already work with, they work with them for a reason, seeing like what's on their page organically, and just speaking about the product in a way that is highlighting it, how you use it, how like your top 5, like blank, or this is what I have in my travel bag for me, for example, for my niche. But yeah, just organically like showing how it's used in your life, but also in a way of in the style and the aesthetic of the content of the creators that they do work with.
I love to hear that. I think that's a true testament in how kind of you yourself have been able to work with so many different brands, how you showcase yourself and how you kind of get in touch with those. There was a question in here that was kind of highlighting about pitching, and I feel like that kind of goes really hand in hand with what you were just mentioning. So I'm not sure if you have a perspective on that, but this individual had asked just kind of tips and tricks on pitching, whether it's better to go to the brand directly or to try and get in contact with our agency. Any perspective that you have, I'm sure would be so helpful to them.
Yeah, honestly, DM the brand, say that you're interested in working with them, ask if they're open to collabs, partnerships, or even just PR gifting. Usually then they'll send you an email or contact to reach out to. And then from there, I would say send them some examples of the content you've made that aligns with their brand, why you want to work with them. And if you have any content that already features the brand, absolutely send that over. Pitching, sometimes the thing is, and I mean, Ryan can probably speak more to this, but I think that a lot of times when brands run campaigns, they have that influencer list in mind, or they have people already in mind. So it's kind of hard to get a paid collaboration. I mean, it is possible out of pitching a brand, very possible, but more so getting on their radar so that way they add you to the list. So when they do run a brand campaign, you're top of mind. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I would actually, thank you so much. That was so great, Natasha. But I wanted to add on too, like, I kind of challenge creators, if you slide into the brand's DMs or you find, like, you know, some brands I've worked at, we've had like, you know, all influencers reach out to this email, it would go to our agency or go internally. But what is the added benefit of me working with you? What are you bringing to the table? Because even on the gifting scale, we could gift anyone, you know, the larger the brands. I know other beauty players where you have to be at a threshold. They just can't afford to send out that much product, you know? So what are you thinking? Like, I almost want them, and that's also kind of some blind trust that this brand will not steal your idea, but kind of like, what are you thinking? Like, how do you envision this? And I also love what you mentioned, just to like even get on their product mailing and just like asking and sending like, you know, like, this is my media sheet, like, look how well I'm doing. before even hitting them up for money. The worst thing anyone can do is just tell you no, I think, depending on how you approach them. And I think that's just something you have to keep in mind, is that if you start pitching someone also for a holiday that's in a week, you have to think that most companies and brands, they're 3 months ahead. They're working on a quarter cycle. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to play the game they are. So just, that's my 2 cents on that as well.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you both.
Yeah.
You've all hit on such great areas of that topic, and I'm spitting now. There's so many different things I could jump in and say there, but I know we've got some more questions, and I feel like this one kind of ties in nicely. Ryan, you were talking a little bit about how an influencer can stand out and showcase who they are to the brand, showcasing different and fun ideas. I mean, there are a lot of things that influencers can do to showcase that they would be a good partner in collaboration. But kind of on the flip side, I'm wondering, how have you found is the best way to relay the benefits of working with influencers, those who have such unique ideas, to a client or brand, maybe who isn't as familiar with influencer marketing overall?
Yeah, I would say it's doing your homework and showcasing who is the customer you're trying to go after and where is that customer looking. So if it's a Gen Z, millennial, whatever letter we're up to as well now, they're on their phone and they're on these apps and they have insane screen time, like especially TikTok, whose screen time is like insane right now. So, and if you want to be on those apps, if you're not just doing a very bad static ad, let's say on like Instagram, you need to think about your creator marketing, because most consumers are going to respond to a very native ad for the platform. I think that's the biggest misconception. I can put up a pack shot, put $1,000 behind it, it's going to sell. It's flat, it's boring. You want responsive content, and it's from a face they recognize, or that it's a this is where like whitelisting and dark posting come in, where it's, you're promoting it from the creator's page, but you don't see it on there, but it's their handle, people recognize it. I think that's the way to explain it, is that we want to get out of our current echo chamber, and these people have that voice. And then like one thing you can do, extensions as well. A really fun thing I was able to do at the brand I worked on, and I'll always go back to L'Oreal, but is we needed to get out of our beauty. Like we weren't acquiring more and more followers and consumers because we're gifting the same people. So we started working with like drag queens because they were still like on brand for us, and like talk about an endorsement that they were able to go and do their shows and their activities. And like we could say like our setting powder set that, like that's also like keeping it on brand in the sense that they are makeup users. And then again, trying to get that content, put it back on our channels, and all like that. But I know the original question was to explain it to management. And I think you just have to make a deck about all the benefits and your consumers and where you need to meet them.
Yeah, I love that. You touched on many different topics and pieces there, but you really said something about how, traditionally you would put up an image, you would run the ad dollars on it. But nowadays people want something lively, exciting. They want to see their favorite creator talking about the product. They want to connect in a relatable way. You mentioned whitelisting and dark posting. I think those are great ways that any brand could showcase the influencer's content to their larger audience as well. So appreciate you sharing all of the insight there. And I also love hearing about what L'Oreal did to kind of bring in new customers. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, my brand was called Dermablend. It was forever ago. And I know we're close to time, so I just want to say, if anyone has more questions, you can add me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to add that too. Sorry, my shameless plug.
No, I'm so glad. You know what? I was just, the time has gotten away from us. But I will go ahead and wrap up things here. I know we've covered a lot of ground today, and it's safe to say that ROI really hinges on more than just the content. It's important to line up content relevancy, the right influencer and their audience, and be really firm on how you're measuring it too, whether that's to the influencers that you're working with or the brands that you're creating this content for also. But that's all the time that we have today. I want to just give a big thank you out there to those who have joined us for the webinar, and then especially to all three of you, to Amanda, to Ryan, and Natasha as well. For Amanda, you can find her on LinkedIn under Amanda Solomon. Ryan, like you mentioned, you can find yourself also on LinkedIn under Ryan Tartarian. Correct me. Perfect. And then Natasha is also on LinkedIn under Natasha Ibrahim, and then also on Instagram under the Natasha Ibrahim. So we so appreciate everyone's time. We invite you to join the collaboration and conversation a bit further. We have a Facebook and a LinkedIn group under the name The FYI by Find Your Influence. You can find us there. Also here at Find Your Influence, we run all different types of campaigns. We are here for our influencers. We're here for our brands as well. We'd love to collaborate with all of you influencers. You can sign up for a free profile with us now on our website, and brands would love to connect with you further to talk about your influencer marketing efforts for 2024. This is our last event for the year. In 2024, we have more live webinars coming your way, including a creator-focused Pinterest webinar coming up very soon. But stay tuned, and I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Thank you again for all of your time today. Appreciate Natasha, Ryan, you both, and hope you all have a great one. Thank you.
It was
Thank
great.
you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.